All right, so we're live. So welcome everyone. Today we have Dr. Moomin, Dr. Mishkat Moomin, and she is the author of a book titled Unseen, Unbroken. And so we're going to have an opportunity to speak with her about the book, as well as the road that she has had to travel that ended up writing this book. And so, Dr. Moomin, before we get started, will you tell our audience something about yourself?
Thank you, Dr. Campbell, for this wonderful opportunity to be with you and with our audiences this evening. Um, the thing about me is that I am a woman from the Middle East. I raised my son by myself in a war zone. I survived assassination attempts. I survived attempts to dismiss me and silence me. And I'm here with you this evening and with our audiences because I want them to find the strength in themselves to do what they really want to do, to stand up for themselves, to speak, to have a voice, to engage in the community, and to achieve their dreams.
Okay, great. So, if you were going to give us just like a generalized overview of the book without going into great details, what would that sound like? What would that look like?
In the book, I will share my experience, not to talk about myself, but to encourage the reader, to reflect on their own life and figure out where they were unseen. Where was that moment? And ask themselves, was I unbroken in that moment? What do I need to do to be seen? What do I need to do to heal from the trauma that I experienced because I was unseen? That's why each chapter, has two special features. One is take this with you. Some takeaways for the reader to encourage them to reflect on their own experiences and later on take an action. Taking action needs to come from reflection. Otherwise, the action is meaningless. The second feature that exists in the book is um, who is seen in that chapter. Each chapter touch upon single mothers, widows, um, those who survived wars or experienced them, those who experienced even domestic violence, things that oftentimes we don't speak about, perhaps because we feel if we talk about them, we are weak or it brings us shame.
Mm-hmm.
The most difficult moment in that book was talking, for example, about my marriage, but I decided to talk about it. I kind of bit the bullet, so to speak, to talk about that experience in my life because I know there are many women out there who experience the same or even more difficult. I want us to come out of silence and talk about our experiences to find solutions. That's the most important piece right there. And that needs to come from reflection.
Okay, very good. So, you talked about trauma, and the one thing that we do know in the world that we live in, especially today, that many people are faced with some type of trauma. The bigger issue is, how do you overcome those different types of traumas? And so, in regards to your book, Unseen, Unbroken, what would you say was one trauma that you faced that you knew you had to overcome, and what did you do to overcome that trauma?
One of the many traumas that I faced was living under a dictatorship, being controlled to, you know, the limit that even when you are alone, you are afraid. Fear is a trauma that makes the person paralyzed, cannot move. The way I decided to face that trauma involved two actions. One, following up on my postgraduate education.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to study international law because I felt that this field offers some opportunities to discuss human rights in a country, in an environment where I am seeing or I saw human rights being violated every second. It's not my opinion, but under the Hussein regime in Iraq, starting 1970 all the way to 2003, Human Rights Watch categorized this period as the darkest in terms of human rights violations. Nevertheless, I sought knowledge, which gives me the power later on to teach human rights, um, to be able to discuss such a topic in an environment where the entire interim constitution at the time did not even acknowledge human rights. The regime at the time called them individuals' rights, not citizens' right, just individual rights. I decided to create a safe environment for me and my students at the time, relatively safe environment. We spoke in code. We talked about the apartheid in South Africa, describing how the regime there violated human rights. Students understood what I meant when I talked about torture, when I talked about, lacking freedom of speech and prosecution without a trial. To the limit that they used to follow me to my car saying, "Professor, we want you to be careful. We appreciate it, but please be careful." To be honest with you, I don't know how I survived, but I truly believe that at the time, the regime was extremely busy trying to get ready for the last war, the 2003 war. That's why they kind of decided not to focus on what I'm doing, so to speak. But facing trauma requires knowledge, requires reflection, requires telling yourself the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's true, I was afraid, I was terrified out of my mind. Every class I used to go back home to either, talk to my sister, to someone, just to say, "Do you think they will come after me?" I said that in the class. "Do you think they will come after me?" To the limit that, my sister laughed and said, "Well, if you said something, you wouldn't make it home, won't you?" So honestly, some of these dark, comedy moments, if you wish, gave me a little bit of hope, gave me a little bit of strength to to continue standing on my feet, to continue talking to the class and deliver. So, these are some of the tools that a person can use to overcome trauma.
Very good. Very good. And so you mentioned your students and you mentioned talking in code. And when you said that, it reminded me of how black students speak Ebonics. And I'm wondering, now that I think and I'm reflecting on it, now that I'm reflecting on it, I'm wondering if that was their way of becoming seen amongst themselves. Um, because we know that Ebonics was fully rejected, but it was something that they couldn't stop them from doing. And so that is a very, very interesting parallel. And for any of you doctoral or potential doctoral students who are listening in, that could be a topic.
Absolutely.
That could really be
Absolutely.
a great topic. But, with all that going on around you, you didn't feel vulnerable at times. And if you did, what made you continue to push forward?
I felt vulnerable many, many times.
Mm-hmm.
And, what I would share is after my divorce, which I initiated. So I sought divorce from my ex husband. And the divorce paper is filed in my cabinet under the label, the best decision I ever made.
Mm,
Um, After then, I had to face the society that was very conservative, very male dominated, operating under the influence that whatever happens in a marriage, the wife should endure.
mm,
Whatever it is, there are no limits. Domestic violence is legalized in the country, still is until this moment. And the wife's job is to endure. I didn't choose that path. And I represented myself in the court. I got my divorce as well as full custody of my son.
nice.
Then came the other piece of the equation, if you wish. The society questioned me. Why did I make that decision? How dare I? All of that. Just as an example, at the time I was studying for my PhD in international law, the professor stopped the class and everything to ask me why I'm divorced
Mm,
in front of the entire class. That was the thing on his mind. I'm not sure how that was related to the topic of the hour, which was international treaties.
mm,
Nevertheless, I responded to him because we don't have at the time any tools to challenge the professor, but I simply told him that was a personal decision for me.
mm,
Uh, that uh, struggle, so to speak, was one of the reasons my ex husband was 100% sure that maybe after a month or two, I would beg him to take me back. I
oh,
didn't.
oh,
I didn't. I pushed forward to complete my studies. I earned my PhD. I found um, a position at the time with the as an attorney, and I found another position at the law school as a professor, assistant professor, despite all of the job ads at the time that said only male candidates will be considered,
Hmm.
and start teaching. My answer was to continue taking action, even if I'm wounded, even if there is something, going on personally. I found myself in teaching, education, academia. I felt knowledge gave me strength and power.
Hmm.
And, that power ignited action through reflection. And that's what I want to share um, with the reader. There is something each of us can do. And oftentimes, currently I have established the Communication of Success, a consultancy that provides, grant writing services to nonprofit readers.
Hmm.
But what I tell them most of the time is to think of an answer to this question: what is the simplest action you can take today to achieve your goal? Is it to write a blog post? Is it to post about it in LinkedIn? Is it just to talk about it with someone? There must be an action that you can take as a leader, as an executive, to support your organization and support your vision. And Dr. Campbell, I'll take a minute to say I don't offer my services, because I want to charge the big bucks. I offer my services to support. I want to see every nonprofit leader succeed because we need them.
Hmm.
Our communities need them. And that's why I joined, Quarantine Racism Educational Services. It's a for-profit company, but it has a service that is unique
Hmm.
and needed in every single school, which is to build a relationship, a healthy relationship with your students. You cannot fully build that relationship until you take one of the courses that are offered through, quarantine racism. You need to understand how, Black students come to the classroom carrying more than their backpacks. They carry their trauma with them.
Hmm.
And you cannot stand in front of them as a teacher, teaching them the meaning of justice, fairness, or even teaching them science and math without fully comprehending what they went through to come to the classroom.
Hmm. Great, great. Now, you earlier stated that you continued to take action even though wounded. And when I read and listen to that type of statement, it really provides a focus on your leadership as well as your leadership style. And you've kind of went over it a little bit in regards to how it was developed. But what type of recommendations would you give people who feel as though they're wounded and then shift into the mode that you are in, which is to continue to take action?
I would encourage them to take inspired action. The inspired action is the one that, makes you smile, the
Hmm.
one that makes you happy and connected, the one that you can build on to grow, to go to the next step and the next step and the next step. Oftentimes, wounded people tend to focus on justice, and if you flip the coin, it can read as revenge.
Mm.
So, in their desire to balance the injustice that they experience, they became engulfed, so to speak, in the pain, focusing on who caused it. In that environment, all they think about is how to get back at that person. But, you know, when I was in that environment, and believe me, I still experience reminiscence of it, I immediately remind myself of leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr.,
Mhm.
Nelson Mandela. I even find books about them. I read about them. I know the movie, but I keep watching it again and again just because I want more inspiration. I want more connection. Later on, I developed something called higher self. So before I take action, I say to myself, is this action inspired by my higher self or something else? To give you an example of something that happened to me here in the US, I worked in an environment that was, first of all, male dominated, and then, it was not so inclusive. So one of the employees used to be very disrespectful. And he was working with another department. Despite all of that, he decided to intervene in my courses, reach out to my faculty without my permission. The faculty were so upset by his behavior. So later on, the leadership of the organization decided to move him under my leadership. And yes, and you know, there was even an inclination or an encouragement for me to be strict with him or to take an action about that particular incident that happened because it was still relevant. Nevertheless, I wrote an email CCing the leadership of the organization, telling them that number one, I would welcome him back with a clean slate. I will not take into consideration the way he treated me. I'll, like him to start fresh.
Mhm.
And I even said in the email that I reflected on the book Dare to Lead.
Mm.
And from the book, I feel, I can work with him, help him develop a plan to achieve his professional goals, and hopefully work together. Unfortunately, afterward, he clashed with the president of the organization, and the organization decided to terminate him.
Wow.
But on my end, I connected with my higher self,
Mhm.
not to, I don't know, seek revenge, but I wanted to see if that person was given a clean slate, how will they act? This way, when they look back at their own experience, they can take ownership of it.
Mm.
They cannot say, she prevented me, she didn't allow me. I wanted to do the right thing, but she stood between me and the right thing. Now the experience is theirs fully.
So, what I really hear from you is that you have a process for shifting the narrative. That's what I hear. And I agree with you absolutely. We can become absorbed with revenge. And when we become absorbed with revenge, then we don't have an opportunity to become creative and fix the problem. So you're
Exactly.
so you're absolutely right. And so how do you hope that your book will be able to shift that narrative for many of us who are oppressed, for many of us who are in pain, um, for many of us who don't believe that there's another way out? How do you hope your book will shift that
That's a very thoughtful question, Dr. Campbell. The way I decided to answer that question was to create activities. So, after each 5 chapters in the book, there are activities, and the activities are designed to help the reader see their pain
narrative?
and recognize that despite all of that pain, they are unbroken. Otherwise, they will not be here reading the book. And because of that, there are more actions for them to do. Somehow, I feel, if I can make that comparison, when someone goes into surgery and they are in the healing process, they have two options. Either, follow the doctor's orders and complete the healing, which can be very painful, by the way, or give up on the entire process and take their chances.
Mhm,
If you decide to complete your healing process, I'm not going to tell you it's easy. I'm not going to tell you it's not painful.
mhm,
And I'm not going to tell you it's not costly. I paid a lot of money for a therapist, for example. My son did the same.
mhm,
But what I'm going to tell you is that it's worth it. By the end of the day, by the end of this journey, you will emerge stronger, better, and even more powerful than you are right this moment. And you will discover that there is a huge, big, beautiful world out there waiting for you to put your mark on it. And sometimes, even, you know, try to answer this question when you are in the heat of the moment. So, 5 years from now, what do I want people to remember about me? What makes me, go on? What are the things that makes me want to continue to live? What are they? To be honest with you, oftentimes when I try to answer that question, I find myself saying books and more books and more books. But that what makes me happy. What about the rest of us? Maybe it's a picture you want to take. Maybe it's a painting. Maybe it's a video. Maybe it's a pet that you'd like to, take for a walk or play with. Maybe it's your child. It depends, you know. So, nevertheless, we need to answer this question and we need to find value in our journey.
mhm,
So, and if you allow me, the journey has nothing to do with the title. The journey is valuable on its own. And that's another theme that I'd like, the reader to understand.
mhm,
It has nothing to do with titles. It has to do with the journey and the action you take every single day.
mhm. Okay. So as we get ready to wrap up, um, and it really sounds like a great book, And for those of you who are listening in, well, where can we purchase the book? And what's next for you?
So I'm hoping to finalize the publishing process by the end of October. And I will make sure to make an announcement on LinkedIn, Substack, and YouTube when the book becomes available. In the meantime, I publish every Sunday an article on LinkedIn inspired by the book. I also publish stories on Substack, also inspired by the book. And I'm hoping that this book will become universal. It's true, the story is mine, but the theme is universal. And that's what I'm hoping to achieve. I see the book as a book and a movement as well. In the meantime, I am working on some companion tools, such as more leadership activities, more reflection activities. I'm working also on a novella. So, one way to kind of channel my experience with less pain, because reliving the trauma is painful, was to write it as a story. So I began that process, but I didn't finish it. But now I feel empowered to finish that novel as well. And I'm hoping to publish a sequel to the book as well, called Who Didn't See Me,
Hmm.
with the same concept. All of us, have came across someone who dismissed us
Hmm.
for whatever reason. But if you put it down on paper and clarify, identify the person who didn't see you, and then come up with activities to be seen, I believe that's another empowerment tool that I'd like to make available to everyone who is listening or interested.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Moomin. As she said, she's on LinkedIn. The book will be coming out in October. So, you know, keep track of her updates as well as her articles that she writes once a week. And so we at Quarantine Racism want to thank you for two things. One, we want to thank you for being on today and being a participant to let people know about your article. And secondly, we want to thank you for being an active brand ambassador connected to Quarantine Racism Educational Services. And so once
It's an
again,
honor and privilege. Thank you, Dr. Campbell, for offering me that opportunity to serve as a brand ambassador and be there to empower both teachers and students.
thank you very much.